back to another Buenos Aires video. My name is Chanel. If you're new here, I'm a digital nomad living abroad in Buenos Aires. I've been here for a year and a half now, and today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of living in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Now this video is primarily for tourists, visitors, people who are thinking about moving or traveling to Buenos Aires, Argentina, but it also may be interesting for people who are already living in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So with all that being said, this video is going to be a long and chatty one, so feel free to use it as a podcast, listen to it on the treadmill while you're driving to work, if you're walking the dog. And with all that being said, we're just gonna jump right into the first pro. We're gonna start with the pros because you always want to start with the positives. And one of the first things that stands out to me as a pro of living in Buenos Aires, Argentina, is the fact that the public transportation here is actually really good. For the most part, it's reliable. There's been a few ups and downs with my journey with that, but for the most part, it actually is reliable. There's apps that you can use to figure out when a bus or when a train is coming, and there are many options for the public transportation system. There's buses, there's trains, there's subways, and I really do like it. I always prefer traveling on the public transportation system. And although prices have risen, we're gonna get into that in like the later part of the video, but I do believe overall the prices are fair. For a one-way trip, you can expect to spend anywhere between 400 and 700-ish pesos, which is like 40 to 70 cents one way. And if you're doing a two-way going somewhere coming back, you can expect to spend around, I don't know, 80 cents up to like $1.50. So I think it's pretty fair, and always using the public transportation system, I feel safe even when I go at night as a woman by myself. So I really do recommend it to anyone who's thinking about traveling to Buenos Aires, Argentina. And talking about safety a little bit more, yes, I did just mention that I do feel safe using the public transportation system throughout any time of the day, but also when I'm not using the public transportation system, I still feel safe, especially walking alone as a woman, whether that's at night. And no matter honestly where I go, I think it's really important that you have street smarts no matter where you go anywhere in the world. Some people who live here in Buenos Aires say that the city is actually not really safe. I don't know if I agree with that too much. I'm coming from New York, so I feel like I have a little bit of an experience with cities that may not be the safest. Here, I'm not like fearing for my life. I don't think like anything bad is going to happen to me personally. I never feel that way. The worst thing that can probably happen to you is that you're going to get your phone stolen or your wallet stolen, but it's not a violent type of crime. It's just like pickpocketing here and there. So if you have general street smarts and common sense, you're going to be okay in the city. Another thing that I do love about Buenos Aires is that I feel that not other cities have, especially not other digital nomad community cities, is the fact that Buenos Aires has a huge international community. And I'm not just talking about digital nomads. There is a digital nomad community here, and it is very big, but there's like a big international community. There's a lot of people from Venezuela living here, Colombia living here. There's a lot of people from the US living here for all different reasons, whether it's like for the rest of their lives or for a short term. There is a big international community. There are events that go on in the city. There are different language exchanges where you can meet people. Like there's always something going on in the city, and it's nice knowing that you never really feel alone because there are people from your community here living in Buenos Aires, Argentina. You may have to search a little bit to find them, but there is a community here for you. And because there is a big international community of digital nomads and residents living here in Buenos Aires, Argentina, I do feel overall that people in the city are very friendly towards immigrants or digital nomads or whatever the case may be. They tend to have a lot of patience with people, especially if you're in like a touristy area like Palermo or Recoleta. If you're trying to speak Spanish and maybe you're not really good at it yet, or you pause a little bit or you hesitate a little bit, they tend to have patience with you. So I really like that. And one thing that I really love about living here is that people are really genuinely nice. So that's like natural for them. Like they are nice, they say hi to you, they ask you how you're doing. It's a very open, warm, and like energetic environment, which I really like coming from New York. And like in most parts in the US, it's not really like that. People are much more closed and reserved. And it's very funny that I'm making this video today because last night I went to like a language interchange, and that's a big thing that we were talking about. Like people here tend to want to stay here for longer because they feel like it's like their home, like people open their arms to them, like it's a very welcoming and warm environment compared to like if you're coming from the US, you may not have experienced that so much. So that's one thing I love about Buenos Aires, Argentina. When people ask why I decided to move here to Buenos Aires, Argentina, that is a main reason for me as to why I chose this place, because I felt immediately like it was my home. People were really open to me, people were really welcoming for me, and it's like I felt immediately like I was at home, and the culture and the people played a huge role in that. So I really love the ambiance here. Like, it's very nice, it's very warm, it's very welcoming. And going on to that as well, Buenos Aires is a lively, social, and active city. There's a huge emphasis on social relationships, and living here quite literally has transformed the way that I live my life now, which may sound crazy, like, but I'm not exaggerating at all. In the US, I was really work focused. I left the US in 2023. I was working up to 70 hours a week, and that was my life. I would go to work, I would come home, I would recuperate, and then I would go to work the next day. Like, the emphasis on my social relationships, whether that was with friends or family, like, that unfortunately was not a priority for me, and it really couldn't have been a priority for me. But now living in Buenos Aires, Argentina, my work-life balance has improved so much. I'm able to work, log off of work for the day, and then go do something social, whether that's with my boyfriend or with my friends or like trying a new social event. The priority I place now on my social relationships is much higher, and that's something that wasn't previously important to me. But living in this city, seeing how it's so important to people living here, like, it made me really value that. So that's something that I'm extremely grateful for. And one thing too about Buenos Aires is that it is an active city. It's a walkable city, but it's also an active city. Like, you'll see people walking their dog, you'll see people running, rollerblading, skateboarding, riding their bike. You'll see people working out in the park or dancing. Like, there's a lot of active movement going on, and for me, being active has always been a priority in my life. Even in the US, I went to the gym. I still go to the gym here, but it's also really motivating in a way to like want to get out of your house and want to do something, or go take a walk in the park, or go take a run, because the activeness of this city, it's very motivating, it's very inspiring, and it's something that I really, really love. I really do. Another pro that I have on this list is the weather, but kind of the weather. Like, I would say for the 4 seasons, I love 3 of them. I love fall, I love winter, and I love the spring here. The spring is like my favorite season. I do like summer. We're currently in summer at the time that I'm filming this video. I do like summer, but living in Buenos Aires in the summer is kind of brutal. I'm the type of person that loves to go out like midday, go to the park, have lunch out in the park, have a picnic, and I have to kind of change how I live my life a little bit in the summer, because the sun, the heat, the humidity, it's really unbearable at times. So if you are living here in this city in summer, you want to make sure you have AC in your house. Thankfully I do. And in the summer specifically, it's kind of hard to be outside midday. A lot of people aren't outside midday because you really like can only walk in the shade, and thankfully Buenos Aires has a lot of shade while you're walking. But I just took a long walk yesterday, and it was like when I was waiting at the corner to cross the street, like I couldn't even stand in the sun while I was waiting like a minute to cross the street because it was just so strong. So keep that in mind. But honestly, I love the winter. It doesn't snow here. It doesn't really get below like 45-ish degrees, which is such a plus for me. The spring is beautiful, the fall is beautiful, and I think the weather overall year-round is pretty good. So that's a plus too. And another plus about living in Buenos Aires, Argentina, is the fact that there is literally always something to do. Like, whether you search up something on Instagram, or I don't know, you know someone in the city, like there's always something going on. And I really love that, especially for people who are extroverted and want to get out and want to do something and want to meet new people. There's always something going on. If you're into like very unique activities, there's a club, there's an activity, there's something for you. Which, to kind of give you an example, this is really interesting. My friend who I just met up with like 2 days ago, she was telling me that she did archery in the US, and she was able to find like an archery place to practice archery at here in Buenos Aires, which is like, that's so niche, and I thought it was really, really cool. But there's literally something for everyone here. It may take you a little bit of time to find what you want to do, but there's something going on in the city like every single day, which is a great way to meet new people, especially if you're new to the city. And this pro that I have on my list, actually is new to this list. When I first arrived to Buenos Aires, I thought it was a con. But I'm gonna explain why. Is that the food here is a pro for me now because it is more diverse. This is like kind of a hot topic, I think, in the digital nomad community, because a lot of people in the digital nomad community, or like travelers or tourists or people, say that the food here is not really diverse. But I've noticed within like the last 2 years, like there are more diverse options. Sometimes you just have to search for them, but like I'm able to eat Chinese food, Japanese food, I'm able to eat food from the US, I'm able to eat like shawarma, like I'm able to eat food like almost from any country, almost from any region. So I think that may be something that is new-ish to the city. I personally feel that now the food is more diverse. If you're only here for like a week or so and you're staying in like just Palermo, maybe you won't think that, but like if you're living here long term, there are diverse options, and that's a plus for me. It used to be a con because I didn't think the food here was that diverse, but it's a pro for me now. And another thing that I love about the food is that it's fresh. Like this is so eye-opening as someone from the US to like really value and want and love fresh food, whether that's fruit, vegetables, or like whatever the actual product is. Like I love fresh food. Who would have thought, coming from a country where the food is very processed and has like 500,000 ingredients in it, like it really makes my body feel so much better. And I love being able to like grab fruit as a snack compared to like Pringles, for example. Pringles do exist here, but like I go for more healthier options now, mostly because I have a larger access to like fruits and things like that. Like there's a lot of fruit stands, there's a lot of vegetable stands. I think the fruit overall is very well priced. Again, a lot of things in this city have increased a lot, but I love that now that I'm living here in Buenos Aires, Argentina, I'm able to eat fresh food that makes my body feel good. We're still on the pros side of this list, which is a fantastic thing. Another thing that I love about the city, this sounds so Instagrammy, Pinteresty, but I do think that Buenos Aires truly is an aesthetic city. Like when you're walking in the city and you see all these beautiful buildings and you see these parks and you just see so much beauty in it, like it makes you happy that you're here. Like I just look up when I'm walking around and look at the buildings, and like I literally have to like take it in at times because there's so much beauty in this city, and to just like take moments like I do often to just like really appreciate what is around you. It's really important and it's really good, and it's something that obviously makes me want to stay in the city longer because I like where I live. And I talked about this a little bit before, but just to kind of clarify, I do love that it's a walkable city. You can get to almost anywhere you want to go. Like you can find almost anything within like a 10 to 15 minute walking distance from you, whether that's a restaurant, a supermarket, I don't know, a very specific place, like if you need to go to the hardware store or something, if you want to go to the gym, like there's really something within any walkable distance of you. And I love that. I'm a big walker, so being able to walk to the store, walk to the gym, makes me live a more active and healthy lifestyle. It allows me to get out of my house, which again, coming from the US, I was really a homebody. I would drive to work, I would drive home, and I would stay in my house for the full day. So I'm a much more active and social person here too. Again, talking about like the aesthetics of Buenos Aires, there's lots of parks, there's lots of nature, there's lots of trees, there's lots of beauty. Every time I watch like Buenos Aires pros and cons video, like this is never brought up, but it's so big for me. There are so many parks, there are so many things to do. You can just put out a blanket, you can have a picnic, and for me that's really important. If you walk around like any single park in Buenos Aires, you're gonna see people there. You may see a dog park, you're gonna see people walking their dogs or riding their bike, or maybe doing a workout class. Like people actually use the parks. Again, this is not like a US comparison video, but just to kind of give you a perspective, in the US there were parks, but people really didn't use them. So it makes me here, while living here, want to use the parks even more. In Buenos Aires as well, there's a big emphasis on art appreciation. There are tons of museums to go to. And there's even a night of the museum here in Buenos Aires where like you can go to the museums for free. And there are times at specific museums where you can enter for free throughout the week. This is typically a Wednesday from my experience, whether you're an Argentine resident or if you're like a tourist or something. So check that out if there's a museum that you really want to go to, but you want to get in for free, check it out to see if it's free on Wednesdays. But outside of that, like there's statues, there's city art, there's events about art, like there is a huge emphasis on art here. So if you're into that, this city is like a double plus for you because you'll be able to appreciate art within the city of Buenos Aires as well. And Buenos Aires, and specifically the country of Argentina, is a place with a lot of pride. Like if you ask people what they love about Buenos Aires or Argentina, or if they're proud of their country or things like that, like there is a lot of Argentine pride. You see people wearing like the national football jersey, you see people like having an Argentine flag outside their house, you see people like when they talk about Argentina, overall they're really positive, they really love their country, they're really proud of where they come from. And it's very refreshing to live in a place like that where people are proud of their culture, they are proud of their country, they like their country. So it's something I noticed like the second I got off the plane here, and it's something that I really do value and admire as well. And overall, the city of Buenos Aires is a very charming city, and it has like captured me in a way that no city has done before. And I've done a bit of traveling, like I've been to Madrid, I've been to Paris, I've studied in Ecuador, I've been to Costa Rica, I've been to different cities in the US, but no city and no place has captured me and has made me fall in love with the city as quickly as Buenos Aires has. I think this hits true for a lot of people who come to the city. Like I feel like their expectations are high, and then when they get to Buenos Aires, Argentina, like the bar is raised. There's something charming, there's something enchanting about the city and the people and the culture and what you're able to do and see here that is very unique to Buenos Aires, and that a lot of cities, it's not that they don't have, but like comparatively, it's not as high as Buenos Aires. So I really love this city. I will always talk good things about this city because living here has completely changed my life. And I say that, and I'm not being dramatic, I'm not being extra, like it truly has changed the way I live my life. So those are the pros that I have for Buenos Aires, Argentina. There are probably a ton more that I could add. If you have any more to add that I've missed, please add them to the comments below. And this is our intermission break to remind you to subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And if you're into Buenos Aires, Argentina content, to give this video a like if you've been enjoying it so far. And with that being said, we're gonna move on to the cons, because on this channel we like to be real. I'm not here to tell you that Buenos Aires is the best place ever and that there's not one thing wrong with the city or that there's not one con to this city. I really try to be real with my experiences here on this channel so I can give you a better perspective as to if Buenos Aires is the place for you. And with any city, there's cons. So let's talk about a few of them together. So one of the big cons that I've already talked about in my culture shock video, but I'm gonna bring it up again because I still think that it is a big con about living in Buenos Aires, Argentina, if you're not an Argentine resident with a DNI, is the fact that you do need a DNI for many purchases here. Many online sites will require you to have a DNI to put in a specific Argentine identification number, like from a national document, to kind of prove your identity when you want to buy a product. It's really hard for international travelers who may be staying long term if they don't have that DNI. And when I talked about this in my last video, a lot of people assumed that if you're here on a visa, you automatically get a DNI, and that is not true. Like for example, if you're on a student visa, I don't think you get the DNI. There's many visas where you don't get a DNI. There are many visas where you do get a DNI, so it's really dependent on your visa. Like you could be here on like 3-year student visa and not have a DNI, and it can still be difficult for you to live in the city if you don't have a DNI. So I'm really hoping that Argentina can change that. It would make traveling to Argentina more accessible for people, but I do understand why Argentina has it in place for the people who live here. So I understand both sides, I really do, but talking from a touristy perspective for all of our tourists out there who want to travel to Buenos Aires, Argentina, you could possibly use your passport number. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But overall, it is a con, I think, to living in Buenos Aires, Argentina, especially if you're going to be here long term without being able to have that DNI number. And a big, I'm going to say it, A big con that has happened within like the last 6 months to a year are the rising prices of just about everything, from food to renting prices to memberships to buying almost any product, to the rising prices of the transportation system, to electricity, like to building expenses. The prices have risen here for literally everything, and in my personal opinion, they are very comparable to the prices of that of New York. The only thing that's really not comparable to that of New York is the renting, but depending where you go, if you're doing an Airbnb, depending what kind of contract you're renting, it very well could be comparable to that of New York or to wherever place you're coming from. We just re-signed our contract for this place that we're in. We're gonna be here for another year, and thankfully we were able to negotiate the price. We spent actually a few months negotiating the price. So I think that's really important if you're planning on staying here long term, to find, you know, a direct landlord and be able to negotiate and know the value of things here. But the prices are rising. And unfortunately, for a lot of people who thought that Buenos Aires was going to be their home long term, that may not be the case anymore, or people are really considering if it is worth it financially to stay in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And this even goes for people who are earning in USD or who are earning in euros. It's still a rising cost that I'm seeing affect all people. Now, if it's affecting people who are earning in USD and euros, imagine what it is for people who are earning in pesos here. And that's something that I think of truly all the time. And I feel like if you're anyone with a heart, if you're anyone who genuinely cares about the well-being of others, and you're living in Buenos Aires, Argentina, you probably think about this too. When I go out to eat and I look at the price of a coffee and I see the price of a coffee is like 4,500 pesos, or if it's like $4.50, I'm like, whoa, that's kind of expensive for a coffee. And I'm a very frugal person. You may not believe that, but I really am. I'm very tight with my budget. I'm very tight with my money. I'm a teacher, and I work in education, so maybe that puts it in perspective for you for a little bit. But I think for me personally, I think of that a lot. And I don't know how to describe it, but it's like I care a lot for the people in this city. And if it's hard or expensive for people who are earning in USD and pesos, it really makes me empathize a lot with people who are earning in pesos here. And it makes me realize that for me it's hard, for them it must be hard too. And it's like not a good feeling. Like I really don't know how to describe it, and I'm trying to describe this in the best way that I possibly can. But in terms of everything, I really hope that economically things can get good. I always say that things can get good and things can get better here for the people who are living here first. They're the most important people in this conversation, and that for tourists and for digital nomads and for people who want to explore Buenos Aires or Argentina for a shorter amount of time, then for them it can get better whenever it needs to get better for them. But I really truly hope, like with everything in my being, that it can get better for people who are living here. And talking about money a little bit with the rising prices of everything, the blue dollar does exist. I'm not going to go into the difference between the MEP rate and the blue dollar rate and the official rate. That's not what this video is about. There's like thousands on YouTube or TikTok or whatever platform you want to search it up on if you don't know the difference between those things and you want to. But for checking the blue rate and seeing what the blue rate is at, I honestly have not checked the blue rate in like a month. I just can't. There is a mental fatigue that I have for always checking the blue rate. Now it's actually been pretty stable, and I think that's another reason as to why I have not checked it in a long time. But the mental fatigue of checking the blue rate and for always checking like what the official dollar is versus the blue rate, it's daunting. It can be very draining to figure out how much your money is worth consistently. So that, I'm going to put it as a con, because for me when I first arrived here it was mentally draining. But recently I've just had to let it go because it's been pretty stable for the past few weeks. As a side note, I pay for almost everything with my credit card for the MEP rate, and I always have cash on me just in case. And again, talking about money and things like that, a con, especially if you're planning on traveling here to Buenos Aires, Argentina, is that not all places accept card. I actually just watched like a video similar to this that I'm filming right now, and the other person said that most places do accept card, but in my experience, no. Like if you're living here in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and you're getting out of like Palermo and Recoleta, the very touristy areas, if you're actually living here and you're trying new places and you're going to new things and you're exploring different areas, like if you get more local, not all places accept credit cards or debit cards. Now, if you're staying in Palermo, if you're staying in Recoleta, you're probably going to be fine if you have your credit card. Everything's probably going to be okay. But if you're living here long term, that's something that I deal with consistently, and I feel like it affects me more because I like to use my credit card for paying for things, and I don't like paying with cash because I don't like carrying cash around with me, like large sums of cash, especially if something were to happen to me, if I were to like lose my wallet or someone were to pickpocket me. God, hope it doesn't happen, but just in case, like I just don't like that. So maybe it's more of a me thing, but still I'm putting it as a con because not all places accept card. You can pay with cash if you have cash on you, or a bank account through bank transfers or Mercado Pago, but I don't have Mercado Pago, I don't have a bank account, so I can't do that option either. So cash when I can, but again, for most places, I can pay with my credit card, but it's like always kind of defeating when I go into a place and I see something that I want and I go to buy it and I ask, do you accept the card? And they say no, only cash or bank transfer, and I'm like, well, I wasn't expecting to want this thing today, and I wasn't expecting to carry extra cash with me today, so I'm going to leave here defeated because I cannot buy it. So I'm adding it to the con list. And with all that too, coming from the US, you're probably familiar, like if you were to go to Target or Walmart, or if you were to shop on Amazon, the prices for everything, like you can get everything in one store and you're gonna know like what the price is. Like if you go to Target, things are gonna be a little bit more expensive versus going to Walmart, and you could always price compare on Amazon. Like you could find anything there, and you're gonna know the prices of just about everything, and you're gonna be able to price check and price compare very easily. Here in Buenos Aires, Argentina, it is not that simple. There's a price hunt with like all types of shopping, whether that's for food, for fruit, for house things, for clothes, like whatever the case may be, because here there are many specific shops. Like there's a hardware shop, there's a fruit shop, there's a homeware shop, there's a supermarket. And it's not like all of these places have an online site where you can go and check the prices online. I wish, but the prices here are always changing consistently, so that's just not the case. But you kind of have to price hunt in person for things that you want. And the more you do this, the more you find like your core places, you're going to be able to do this more quicker. But for example, like when Michael and I decided that we wanted to rent this apartment unfurnished, we spent weeks literally going in stores to kind of price compare the price of furniture because we had never done that before. It was a brand new experience for us, and it was very difficult. It took us a lot of time. It was mentally daunting. And price hunting here is a thing. It can be a good thing. Like if this is you, if you love to do this stuff, and if you want like an excuse to get out of your house to go explore the city a little bit more, it can be a plus. But honestly, for me, it's time consuming. It's daunting on me mentally. Like if I go to one side of the city to check something and then I go on the other side of the city and then I'm like, no, the other price was better on the other side of the city. Like when we were furniture shopping and things like that, like it is very time consuming. And for some people, again, it may be easier at this point if you've been living in the city for a very long time, like you know your tried and trues, but keep that in mind. And honestly, like for a lot of tourists, whatever, like you may not care. Like if you're here for like a month and you just go to like Vea or a supermarket or Jumbo or another supermarket and they have like little household items or like little things that you may need to save you time and energy, you may just pick it up and it's gonna be okay. But if you're looking for the best price, the best deal for your dollar, it's something that's common here in Buenos Aires that a lot of people do. And another con that I'm gonna add to this list that was previously a pro when I first moved here, and I think it was because I had tourist vision. I had very blurred vision where I was just staying in touristy areas and I couldn't really like see all of Buenos Aires, Argentina like around me outside of like those three bubbles of like Palermo and Recoleta and maybe Belgrano. But I used to say that Buenos Aires was like the cleanest city, and coming from New York, it felt like so incredibly clean. But after moving here, like, I feel like it's not as clean as I once thought it was. I do still think overall it's a clean city, but I do think that there are so many things that can be improved to make this city feel even cleaner. And I'm not going to go into the specifics of all those things, but it's very interesting, I think, from my perspective at least, to think of things that used to be a pro for me, but now are a con or reversed. And I bring this up and it's very interesting because I've been feeling this way so incredibly heavily for like months now. This is very specific and maybe you know what I'm talking about. The Pueyrredón B to H connection has been the absolute worst part of my Buenos Aires experience. Like that B to H connection, Pueyrredón, has been like the worst part about my experience. I hate taking that connection. I oftentimes have to take that connection, and I hate it. I really do. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I don't need to explain it. But recently, they've just announced, like the city of Buenos Aires, that they're gonna close that for 3 months to make it better. And like after feeling like how I've been feeling for like ever, and I always see it too, like on Instagram, Buenos Aires will always post about them cleaning the subway lines. And then everyone in the comments are like, okay, well, what about the Pueyrredón? What about the B line? So they are finally closing that specific connection line to, I'm hoping, make it better. Make it better for the thousands of people who have to take that connection and have to use that every single day. So I have hope that the city is seeing what many residents and people living here are seeing, and they're taking action. I do think overall the city is very good at listening to like what people want, because I always see like billboards of like changes that the city is making based on like what people probably think. Like I'm seeing more like there's more security points in the city now, or like they put like more police in the city now. They'll tell you if like they're closing a subway line to make it better or things like that. And it's always like, to you it's important and to the city as well it's important. So I do think that they see what the people want. Sometimes it may take longer to make a change or make it better, but when I saw that, I was like so happy. It's gonna be hard for the next 3 months, but I'm hoping that it will be much better. And another thing I'm gonna add to the con of this list, like I really never know if this is a pro or a con because I talked about this in my culture shock video and I was like, no, this is okay, like I haven't really experienced this. But now recently I have started to experience this. The customer service, and I'm looking down because I have like a whole list here. The customer service, I would say it's mostly fine. I don't want to give it a complete pro. I don't want to give it a complete con. I'm going to put it like in the middle as like my one medium, because I would say the customer service here is fine living as someone who doesn't have a native Spanish speaking accent, because the Argentine accent here is very unique and it's very specific. And I don't think my accent when speaking Spanish is terrible. I really don't. I think my accent is okay. I think my Spanish is good, but I don't sound like I'm an Argentine person. I don't. And quite frankly, that's not a goal for me. My goal is to just feel more comfortable and confident in Spanish. And if that means I pick up the Argentine accent while doing so, amazing. And if not, I'm not going to be hard on myself over it. But sometimes I feel that the customer service here is hard when people don't have an Argentine accent or when they're not a native Spanish speaker. And I feel this way because I feel like people tend to have less patience when you don't have an authentic speaking accent. And like maybe that makes sense, but I swear coming from New York, and Buenos Aires is a pretty nomadic, it's a pretty diverse city, I would say. But like coming from New York, like if I was doing customer service something and someone with like a non-New York accent were to approach me and start talking to me, like I would never like not talk to them. I would never like be mean to them. I would never, I don't know, like I would never like not try to understand them if like I really couldn't. But here I feel like people, if you don't have a native Spanish speaking accent, again, if you're living here long term, if you're outside of the touristy areas, tend to have less patience with people who just don't have that accent, like they just don't want to deal with it. And to give you an example of this, I literally went to La Uche, a clothing store, the other day, and I was looking for a shirt in a specific size, and I saw all the other sizes, like I did all my searching, and I go up to the lady and I am trying to ask her in Spanish, like, do you have this shirt in another size? Like as soon as I said like hola, she like looked at me like she like already didn't want to do it, and maybe like she already had like a bad day and like didn't want me to like be an inconvenience for her. Like I get it, I really do get people who work in customer service, because I understand it's not an easy job, but I'm literally speaking to her in Spanish, explaining what's going on, asking her if she could help me, and then someone else, I guess, didn't realize we were having a conversation. Another customer asked her something. She was Argentine, so you know her Spanish was good, obviously. And then the lady working at La Uche just like turned her back to me and just like started talking to this other person and just like helping her like go through like the clothes and things like that. My jaw was on the floor. I was like, I know my Spanish is okay. I know my Spanish is good. I'm gonna say it. I know my Spanish is good, but I know my accent is okay, but like not to the point where like you just had to stop talking to me. And like literally I was like, that was just rude. Like that was just straight up rude. So I had to ask like another worker to help me. He was bubbly, he was happy, he's like, sure, let me go help you, blah, blah, blah. He came back and he helped me and was fine. But I feel like the customer service things, I don't know. I'm putting it in the gray because I have amazing experiences and I have not amazing experiences. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but if you have a similar experience or something like that, please let me know. Like, I was literally jaw on the floor. I was like, that was kind of crazy. Anyways, with the accent, if you have studied Spanish before but never in Argentina, or you've never taken Argentine specific classes or like with a tutor, you're coming here and you may feel like the accent is difficult to understand. The words for things are very different. Like for example, for avocado, aguacate may be the one that you're familiar with, but here they call it like palta, for example. Like there's a different word here in Argentina for a lot of the words that you may know, if that makes sense. It can be challenging for language learners, especially if you come with a background. Like when I come to Argentina, people always ask me, like if I'm meeting someone for the first time, did you know Spanish before you came here? And I was like, yes, I did, but I relearned Spanish here because it's like learning Spanish all over again with the accent, with all the new vocab, with all the slang and things like that. So I really felt like I was starting not like at the bottom from floor 0, but maybe out of like a scale of 0 to 10. Like when I first arrived here, I felt like a 3. Like I really had to get familiar and comfortable with the accent to like really understand what people were saying. And then I felt more confident like being able to speak and hold conversations with that. So I say that as a con. Honestly, it's not really a con because this is the way that Argentines talk, and that should never be seen as a con, quite frankly, but I'm putting it as a con for people who may be traveling here because that can be difficult for them if they already have a Spanish learning background or they're learning language for the first time. Like it can be challenging for that. So that's why I put it as a con, not because it's a bad way of people talking. It's normal. It's a beautiful way to express yourself, and I think it's awesome when we're able to look at all these differences and, you know, make a community and like have everyone come together and have people learn about other people's cultures and language and things like that. Like I think that's a beautiful thing. But I just wanted to clear that up because sometimes the comments in these videos can get pretty mean, so I always have to protect myself in what I'm saying. But other than that, guys, I think we are wrapped up here with the Buenos Aires pros and cons video. Again, there are so many pros that I probably missed. Feel free to add them to the comments down below. With the cons, I include the cons because it's very important for me to give you guys a realistic view of my experience here in Buenos Aires. I know a lot of people use this channel to figure out if they want to come to Buenos Aires or travel to Buenos Aires or move to Buenos Aires, and it would be terrible of me to sugarcoat everything for you and say that my experience here has been 100% perfect and nothing wrong has ever happened to me ever and I'm living in like fairy tale land, because with every city there's a pros and there are cons. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If you did find it helpful, please give me a like on the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and leave me a comment down below letting me know what you think. A lot of people may agree with me, a lot of people may not agree with me. As I said, depending on your experience here, depending where you live, You may have a different view as me, and that's okay. These are just my personal experiences. I never want to tell you that your opinion or your experience is wrong, but these are just my pros and cons after living in Buenos Aires for a year and a half. And with all that being said, I will see you in the next one.